Hi everyone, this is Lisa Truesdell, a garden girl at 2peasinabucket.com, here with another Memory Keeping Monday. This month is all about back to school at 2Ps, and today I'll be making a school-themed layout from start to finish. Here's a look at the supplies that I'll be using today. I started this collection with the October Afternoon Woodland Park alphabet, and then brought in paper from My Mind's Eye, Studio Calico, and Pebbles. Both of my photos are fairly neutral, so I was able to play around with color without worrying about it clashing with the pictures. I was up at our neighborhood elementary school last week helping to clean out a supply closet, and we came across boxes of old photos. This particular photo was taken in the 1930s or 40s, and it inspired me to do a page about our school. I'll also be using a smaller photo of the school building as an accent. Before we get started, I wanted to talk a little bit more about how I pulled this collection of product together. I usually start with a multicolored piece of paper, but today I decided to start with this alphabet from October Afternoon. These busy patterned alphabets can be hard to use, and I find it's best to use them as a starting point rather than to try and work them in at the end. When I pulled together the rest of my products, I looked for paper and embellishments that had simple designs and just one color, and I'm planning to use them in small amounts and let the title be a focal point on my page. The only actual school-themed product that I'll be using is this math washi tape, but I did bring in a lot of office-style products that lend themselves well to the subject. I decided to make this page an 8.5 by 11. I tend to switch between the two sizes, but the photos that I'm working with here are 3 inches and 2 inches square, and they fit well on the smaller page. I'll start by adding this block of patterned paper up along the top side. It'll make a perfect mat for my focal photo. Next, I'll add my title, and as I do, I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting a good mix of patterns and colors as I choose which letters to use. This photo and the title are the major elements on my page, and placing them first will help me make decisions about how I want to embellish it as I go along. Once I'd finished adding the entire title to my page, I decided that this spot under my photo was perfect for my journaling, and I typed it right onto the background of the layout. I've also noticed that every time that I look at this page, the floral H has caught my eye. It just sticks out from the rest of the patterns. I'm going to carefully take it off and replace it with a solid green letter. With that taken care of, I want to add my smaller photo down to the bottom of my page. I want to give the photo a little more presence, so I'm going to add a frame from a set by Studio Calico around it. The frame is about 3 by 4 inches. It's actually sized to fit into a Project Life pocket, so it's just the right size to go around my 2 by 2 photo. I'm using gray ink, and I plan to stamp it right onto the background of my page. I'll leave the photo in place as a guide for where my stamp should go, and take a second to make sure I get it lined up right. After I press the stamp down, it's time for the moment of truth, and I ended up with an incomplete image this time. I'll try to line it back up and stamp it again, but that doesn't always work, and it didn't here. This just means that it's time for Plan B. Stamping is so unpredictable, and my favorite way to cover up a bad image on a background is just to layer another piece of paper over it. I found one that was a similar color to the ledger I'm working with as a background, so I'll just re-ink the stamp and try again here. I'm making sure to get really good pressure on the stamp in that corner that didn't ink before, and I ended up with a much better image. I'll just go ahead and cut this out and then layer it right over the bad stamped image on the page. Once the new image is cut out, I went ahead and added it right over my mistake. You can see how it covers it completely. If you weren't watching this video, you might have thought that I did it on purpose, but now you know better. Next, I'll add borders to the page. I'm using a dark navy at the bottom to help ground it, and it also anchors my accent photo and stamped frame. I'll add a thin strip of green across the top just to bring in a little more color. I'm going to add a bit more stamping. I'm not going to let the mistake I made earlier keep me from trying it again. Here, I'll use a tiny chevron stamp from the same Studio Calico set that the frame came from. I love stamps like this. They're a great way to draw attention to different elements on your page. Your eye will naturally follow an arrow type design like this, so think about what you're pointing at when you add it to your layout. I'll be adding this stamp in 3 different places. Following it will zigzag you across all the major elements of my page. My last step on any page is to add some 3D embellishments. I'm going to start with this arrow paperclip. Again, it's a great way to point the viewer to what you want them to see on your layout. Washi tape seems to find its way onto anything I do lately. I love how it adds more color to the page. This bright yellow up top makes a solid start to the page, and I'll use the math pattern down on my accent photo. I want to add these basic gray banners to the top of my layout, but I don't like the wood stick that they're on. I'd like to be able to stitch them down. I found that if you turn them over, you can open the top up and just pull that stick out. These banners are really sticky, so I stuck them to my jeans a few times before adding them to my page. This way the ends pop up a bit. I think this gives a more natural look to banner accents than having them totally stuck down on the page. Brads are one of my go-to embellishments, and I'll be using them to form a visual triangle on this layout. This clock brad from October afternoon reminded me of the clocks in the hallway at school, so I thought it would be a good fit for the theme of the page. I'm also adding an orange one near my accent photo and a little pink brad up at the top to finish the triangle. These little enamel dots from my mind's eye are quickly becoming a new favorite for me. I picked them up in a couple of colors and I'm going through them quickly. They're a nice boy-friendly alternative to bling, and I'm always looking for small embellishments like this. I'll just add them alongside my brads to finish off the layout. I'm absolutely loving the contrast of this big bright title with this old black and white photo. It's a little unexpected, and it gives the page a lot of energy. And here's another look at my finished page. Now that we've talked about it, you can really see exactly how the arrow accents work as more than just an embellishment. And thanks to my plan B, you can barely tell where I messed up that stamping. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you'll come back next week for another Memory Keeping Monday at 2peasinabucket.com.